Hello and welcome, I'm Stormo and this is another Rift. We've got Act 4, which we got in the last video as well. Different part of it this time though, so we'll make our way through and see what we get. And I did ding at the end of the last video too. I'm sure you can tell by the fact that I'm now level 67 as opposed to level 66. I think I said in the last video that I would easily make it to the end, but I didn't in the end, so that was a bit weird. So, anyway, let's move through here. Not one of my favourite areas to fight through. I always find this a bit confusing. I always get lost when I'm coming through here in the regular game. Either on adventure mode or doing the story, I always just get lost. Doesn't really matter in the Rift because you don't need to worry about getting lost because it's a Rift and Rifts are random. And, this level does randomise its layout a fair bit. So, yeah, it's gonna happen. Clear bang the mangler. Not really doing a lot of mangling there. Oh, I got frozen. Cool. Okay. Not long ago, in fact, probably the other night. Well, the other night from when I'm recording this, but certainly probably not the other night from when you're seeing it. Went and saw Good Game live. For those who don't know, Good Game is an Australian TV show about video games. It's hosted by two really cool people, Barjo and Fence, who I have had the pleasure of meeting, in fact, at a PAX a couple of years ago, the first PAX Australia. I met them there. Got to speak to Barjo, and I also got to speak to Dave Callan, who's of course the comedian that appears on Good Game quite a bit, and he's a really cool guy, and if you ever get the chance to talk to Dave Callan, I highly recommend you take him up on it, and take up the chance, because he's a really cool guy. I actually spoke to him a lot about Melbourne comedy, because it's something he was a part of. As a teenager growing up, I used to listen to, there was a radio show, sorry, not a TV show, on a community station here in Melbourne called Triple R, and it's called The Cheese Shop. And basically, instead of playing music, they played comedy sketches from all sorts of comedians from around the world. It's where I first heard people like Bob Newhart, George Carlin, Bill Hicks, and local comedians like Greg Fleet, Dave Callan, who's obviously there, Linda Gibson, who tragically died some years ago, and various other people. In fact, Dave Taranto, who was the guy that hosted the show, tragically died some years ago too. But I listened to the last ever Cheese Shop just as that happened. That was a bit sad. But yeah, so enough of the sad part of it. The good part of it was that I got to speak to Dave Callan, who was someone I'd grown up listening to, and he was quite impressed by the fact that I remembered the Cheese Shop and I had been listening to him for that long. So, and he does segments on Good Game, and he's really funny, and as we discovered when we watched Good Game live, and this was the whole reason I started talking about this, he's an incredibly good Arnie impersonator. Does a very good Arnold Schwarzenegger. I feel like an Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of those things that all comedians probably have in their repertoire, even if they're not proud of using it. But yeah, Dave Cullen broke it out after this Good Game live show, which was pretty good. Yeah, it was a bit rough around the edges, like they fairly clearly probably hadn't rehearsed it as well as they could have. But it came out really well, so just need to take a drink there, my throat's getting dry, but that's all good. Here. I often do these videos after I come back from a walk, because I like to keep myself somewhat fit. You know, I'm not like a gym junkie or anything like that, but I'm a little bit overweight, and I could do with losing some weight, and one of the things I do, if not to lose weight, then certainly to just keep my weight at a stable level, while I do everything else I can to lose weight, is to just take about 20-minute, half an hour walk every day, and get that out of the way. So usually I do that, and then I start recording my videos for the day, and that's kind of how things happen around, and that's how they've happened for a while now, pretty much since I started doing them actually. I sort of started doing them in the morning, and getting them out of the way early gives me a chance to get them edited and up and running, and because I record at least a day ahead, I don't have to panic too much about them going live on the same day, so I always make sure I schedule ahead, so that's what I do. I'm contemplating, I think I've talked about this long in the past of these videos. I'm contemplating doing a Patreon at some point soon too. I was originally going to do it after I'd been doing this for a month, but I decided to hold out. See where I was in about 6 months after doing this, so it'll probably be around July or August. If I'm still making videos then, I'm going to look into putting together a Patreon for it, and trying to get a little bit of money, because I've decided I should be making money off these. And I do monetize the videos on YouTube, but that, of course, isn't huge amounts of cash coming in. And I'd like people to support me a little bit more. If you like watching these videos, that'd be really cool. I'm also going to put a bit more effort into promoting these videos and building a fan base. So that's going to start happening soon. I have no qualms about like doing that kind of stuff. Like, I know people can be a bit sensitive about monetizing their videos on YouTube because, oh my god, ads on YouTube and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I'm a bit sort of ambivalent towards it, I guess. If you like ads, then, you know, sure, you're weird. But, you know, that's cool and it helps support creators like me. I actually have recently, well, not recently, but a while ago, I disabled ad blocking on my YouTube. On YouTube, I have an ad blocker that lets me disable it on a per site basis. No, it's not AdBlock Plus or AdBlock Pro, or any of those. Different. And I actually have it disabled on YouTube so that I can support creators just by watching their videos if they monetize them. And I believe that you should too, if that's the thing you believe in. And I know ads can be really obnoxious on some sites. I mostly use the ad blocker to block flash ads on websites that make them really obnoxious, like those video ones and stuff. But on YouTube, where you're sort of going already to watch videos, I guess having that pre-roll ad in front of the video is not a bad thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it. And I'm one of those people who thinks that if I have to put up with like a little bit of advertising at the start of some video, then that's cool. I'm not a fan of putting ads in the middle of videos, and I certainly won't be doing that with any videos I put up. It'll always be pre-roll ads for me. I know it's probably worth more money to put them in the video, but I hate that when I watch TV, and I hate that when I watch anything on the internet that does it. And in fact, I will ad block videos that have ads through the video, because that just drives me up the wall. Put it at the start when I have it on. Most services are pretty good about putting ads at the start, and that's kind of my opinion on that. Because I just don't like the program interruption. Like I say, I hate it on TV. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I actually really hate advertising in general. I mean, I sort of understand it's a necessary evil and all that kind of stuff, and obviously, as someone who's going to be trying to make money off advertising, I can't hate it too much, obviously, because I'm happy with the money it'll make me. But on the other hand, I find the sort of extremes, I guess, that advertising tends to go to these days to just be really, I suppose, offensive is the best way to say it. Like, I just, you know, when you're out and about, you're in a shopping centre or something like that, you're going down escalators and they put like advertising screens in front of the escalators, so you have to look at them as you go down the escalator. And that's a thing that happens, by the way. I know a few shopping centres around my area that are like that, and it just drives me up the wall. And that kind of thing, you know, and you're out and about and there's just billboards and ads and all sorts of stuff, and you're just constantly being advertised at. So, as much as I'm not a fan of that kind of extreme, you know, ads in your face everywhere you go kind of thing, I accept that on the internet advertising is something that I suppose works to an extent at least, and it's going to help me make money if this ever becomes a thing. And I'm hopefully going to, you know, do it. So, but for those of you who do prefer to just ad block everything, I feel that having an alternative way of supporting these videos would be optimal, because I know not everyone is like me, where they, even if they don't like advertising, they will put up with it. And I know some of you won't be like that. In that case, I would like you still to support me if you like me, and Patreon I think is a really good way to do that. So I'm going to think about, I need to think about what I can give back in terms of what I do for Patreon, because like all I really want to do is make like a video a day, but Patreon has like rewards and stuff that I have to think about, and I haven't really thought hard about that. It's one of the other reasons I've been staying away from Patreon. I made an account there, and I've looked at a few other creators, and I'm looking at if I have some money. I don't have lots of money personally, you know, I have enough to get by, but not huge amounts. But yeah, so I'm looking at you know, supporting other creators and stuff, and supporting myself. There's a few creators I like that have Patreons. I'm a big fan of, for example, Lazy Game Reviews. I think Clint, who does those videos, is really cool, and he has a really unique perspective. And I really enjoy watching his videos. And there's, I think the other one I've recently been getting into is a girl who goes by the handle of Pushing Up Roses, who I actually kind of got into through Lazy Game Reviews, strangely enough. And she's really cool as well. Again, basically old PC gaming and stuff like that. And I have a bit of a soft spot for that because I never actually grew up with PC games. Like, I never owned a PC as a kid. I had a Commodore 16, which is like the little brother of the Commodore 64. It's like an even weaker computer than the Commodore 64. I did get a Commodore 64 later on, actually, and I had a friend who had an Amiga. And being in Australia at the time, like when PCs were sort of becoming big, I suppose overseas, here in Australia the big thing was the Amiga. Everybody had Amigas. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that the PC really seemed to start taking off, at least around my experience or my areas. That's how it sort of felt to me. And I had a Nintendo as well, and NES at the time as well, so that was what I mostly played on. But yeah, so I developed a really interesting sort of relationship with PC, where I basically only played it at other people's houses. And, you know, even then, only occasionally, because not many people I knew actually had, like, IBM-compatible PCs. They all had Amigas or Nintendos or other gaming systems. So only a few people I know actually had PCs. And, so my experience was pretty limited. I did play a lot of the games that people remember as PC classics, like I've played Monkey Island, but I played on Amiga, and things like that. But yeah, so watching these sort of, it does bring back memories, but perhaps not in the way that most people would. Like, for me, it's memories of sitting in front of an Amiga playing a lot of these games, or it's memories of being at someone else's house playing these games, or it's just memories of reading reviews of them in magazines. I used to read games magazines. I used to be a paperboy, and deliver newspapers, and I'd be up at crack of dawn before school most days, and I'd deliver newspapers from my local newsagent around the town I grew up in, which is a small town on the outskirts of Melbourne. And yeah, I used to deliver these newspapers, and while I was waiting for my boss to fill my bike up with newspapers, because that was his job apparently, I would sit there and I would just flip through all the video games magazines he had sitting in the store, and, you know, just read everything. So I used to read, like, you know, Mean Machines. I used to read computer and video games. I used to read, there was a magazine called Games Master, which was based on a British TV show. I used to read an Australian one that was called Megazone, and then later there was another Australian one called Hyper, which is still running, actually, Hyper magazine. But I actually remember reading the very first issue of the newsagents while I was waiting for my boss to fill my bike up with newspapers. And I used to read, like, we didn't get a lot of the American ones. Like, occasionally he'd get like an EGM or a Game Pro in, but that was about as far as it went with American games magazines. And very rarely would get those magazines, and even when you did, they were like a few months behind. Even the British ones, because most of the magazines were not British, so it would be things like Amiga format as well. There was a couple of Amiga magazines, actually. Amiga format, Amiga Power, the classic Amiga Power magazine, that's sort of revered on the internet these days, like the pinnacle of all computer magazines, certainly of all Amiga magazines, and stuff like that. So I used to read those magazines and stuff, so I used to read the reviews in them and all that, and I'd occasionally buy them. I used to have a huge box in my bedroom that was just full of computer magazines from the early and mid-90s. But unfortunately, one day a cat peed in there and ruined a fair few of them. And it's a bit of a shame, actually, because there's a lot of stuff in there. Like, there's like the first 4 years of an old magazine called the Nintendo Magazine System, which was an Australian Nintendo-focused magazine. And I used to buy that basically regularly. And then Hyper, I'd buy regularly as well. Oh, get out of that. And they were pretty cool magazines. So yeah, and that's kind of my memory of early PC gaming. I guess that's kind of why I like Lazy Game Reviews and Pushing Up Roses, especially because they do stuff like that. And I know there's other YouTubers that do things like that as well, and I'd like to actually find more. The other one I tend to watch on YouTube actually is Trump. who of course plays Hearthstone, very good, and I just find the way he plays the game and the way he articulates his thoughts actually when he's playing Hearthstone, I find really fascinating. So he's really cool. And so I watch him a fair bit, and you can probably, I think you can probably see what I subscribe to if you go to my channel page and have a look. My subscriptions will be there. And in fact, I have been participating in someone else's videos lately. My friend Disky included, who bought Sonic CD that I made a video of a little while ago. He does Magicka videos, and I've been invited to participate in those. And we recorded the first videos not long ago, and they may or may not already be up on YouTube by the time you see this video, which I am again recording in advance. But yeah, so I'll certainly link to those videos either through one of my own videos or through something else when they go live, and you can see me and a couple of my friends playing Magicka in those videos. So that'll be really cool. Bit of a lead up to Magicka 2, which comes out I think next month now, actually too, which is great. Just checking everything here, just making sure. No, we didn't get a lot of very interesting stuff this time. I don't think we're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff until we hit level 70 at this point. Like, it'll just be minor upgrades and little increments here and there until we get to level 70 and unlock all that gear. So there's nothing particularly interesting today. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.